So, does anyone care to touch on this further?
However, Ghislaine did not escape the abuse that was known to befall Robert Maxwell's other children. While brothers Kevin and Ian were well known to regularly receive tongue lashings from their father in full view of friends and business associates, Ghislaine received prearranged hidings or beatings from her father. With a 9-year-old Ghislaine telling author Eleanor Berry, a friend and confidant of her father's, that, quote, Daddy has a series of things lined up in a row. There's a riding crop with a swish to it, another straight riding crop, and a few shoehorns. He always asks me to choose which one I want, end quote. Um, that's genuinely messed up. And if that's normalized for her at the age of 9, is it any wonder that she had such a distorted view on how to live life as an adult? Broken kids make for dangerous adults. My name is Jerry. I left MAGA, and I'm wrapping up a story that I started on Ghislaine Maxwell. The opening clip was from the previous video, and I wanted to bring that back into attention in reference to the connection between Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, and James Dobson. This is a long article. I'm not going to read it. The link will be in the description. But what I want to do instead is I want to just play this clip. Um, it was originally posted. Again, the link will be in the description. But Freedom from Religion Foundation, and this was posted September 3rd, 2025. So let's check out this James Dobson "Harmful Legacy Will Haunt Us" clip. This is the shortest way I could think to do it, to sum it up.
What values Dobson promoted? I know this was like really personal to you. Your parents, I guess, were followers of Dobson's child rearing advice.
He was promoting corporal punishment, but he would promote it in this very ritualized way. And he thought you could sort of, or should, strive to break a child's will without breaking their spirit. You know, if you're spanking a child, whether that's with a hand or a switch, you should immediately tell a child, you know, I love you, I'm just doing this for your own good. And in my view, I think some Christian parents kind of saw in that permission to exceed even the parameters that Dobson set out. You know, I saw on Instagram, for example, someone was talking about, you know, her mom began following Dobson and started beating her children with a riding crop, which is not in any of Dobson's books. But the point was, you know, corporal punishment was good for a child, spare the rod, spoil a child. And, you know, people would take that in the directions they took it. And so in my case, you know, I do think it was really excessive. The idea that you're not supposed to spank your children in anger maybe sounds nice on paper, but that's not really how it worked out for me or for a lot of other people. And because Dobson was also a proponent of like homeschooling and traditional gender roles, you know, there was really no escape. I could maybe go to somebody at my church, but frankly, I didn't trust anybody at my church either, even when I was still a Christian. So it was very much this feeling of like, well, there's just no way out from any of that. And you do start to think, well, maybe there is something wrong with me. Maybe I deserve to be hit in this way. Maybe I deserve to be pushed or shoved or yelled at. And when you kind of combine that with religious messages about, you were born with a sin nature, and you know God had to send His perfect Son to die for you, and you didn't really deserve that. Wasn't it nice of Him? You know, it's not great psychologically. That's how I would put it.
And yeah, it's not great psychologically. So let's take a look at some scriptures here. Let's do a little bit of a Bible study where James Dobson pulls his advice, his advice, and I'm using that as loosely as it can possibly be interpreted. But he pulls from Proverbs chapter 13, verse 24. I have the English Standard Version lined up next to the King James Version. You can see I'm using the Bible Gateway. I like it because I can use this option. Anyway, the English Standard Version says, "Whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him." In the King James version, which is what I grew up in a King James only church. In the King James version of Proverbs 13:24, he that spareth the rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteth him betimes. So the word that's used in here is Mussar. And in the Jewish tradition, Mussar is let's see, Mussar is a virtue-based ethics. Is virtue-based ethics based on the idea that by cultivating inner values, we improve ourselves. This is in contrast to most Jewish ethical teachings, which are rule-based. And so this is more of a deviation. Uh, in fact, there's some other examples where the word rod is used. For example, Psalms 23:4, English Standard Version first. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Or in the King James Version, yea, though I walk through the valley of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. So these are shepherding terms. Okay, the staff would be the shepherd's crook, and and the rod is like a walking stick, and it can be utilized as a defensive device. So this is more in the aspect of providing guidance and protection, at least the way I understand it now. It's not about beating your sheep into submission. Let's continue over here to Proverbs 22:6. This is one that really gets a lot of evangelicals, especially when us ex-evangelicals have deconstructed. The Proverbs 22:6 in the English Standard Version, it says, "Train up a child in the way they should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it." Or the King James Version, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." So those are pretty close translations. But what happens here is if somebody has grown up in one of these high demand, high control versions of Christianity, and they decide to open up their heart and become a little bit more empathic, a little bit more progressive in their ideologies and their ways of thinking, then the parent feels like they have failed because of the way this doctrine works. So James Dobson has wrecked a lot of families. Let's go over here to Proverbs 12:19. English Standard Version. Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. King James Version of Proverbs 12:19. The lip of truth shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. So pretty close to the translations there. But again, I was raised to believe in spiritual warfare, speaking gobbledygook by speaking in tongues. It's a sign of baptism of the Holy Spirit. And that's not how any of this, no, that's not part of it. So having grown up being taught lies, truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. I'm a grown person. I have the ability to make up my own mind. As a kid, I didn't have that choice. So let's take a look at Proverbs 13:14, English Standard Version first. The teaching of the wise is a fountain of life, that one may turn away from the snares of death. Or in the King James Version, the law of the wise is a fountain of life to depart from the snares of death. So in this particular context, if your particular congregation or denomination teaches that their understanding of their interpretation of the Bible is the one true interpretation, then you run into them thinking that they are the fountain of life, and if you left their group, you're now caught in the snares of death, and you're doomed to hell to burn forever and ever and ever. What a horrible idea. But I got one last passage I want to share with you, and this goes also back to rebuking James Dobson in his horrible teachings. Ephesians 6:4, English Standard Version first. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. And the King James Version, Ephesians 6:4. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. So this is again talking about personal discipline. This is one of those core doctrines that pretty much anybody can embrace, and that personal discipline is actually necessary if you're going to be successful in an organization, especially the military, and the instruction or admonition of the Lord. Um, I'm just gonna quote my favorite verse out of the Bible, and not that I believe the book, but I still have a favorite verse. Love one another as I have loved you. For by these actions they will know you are my followers. And as much as some folks over there in the MAGA movement want to really rail on those individuals that they perceive as Canaanites, it's an othering tactic that they use. I frequently remind them, and I'm pretty sure it was Simon, but one of Jesus' disciples was a Canaanite. And don't forget, one was a tax collector. And anyway, um, me, I'm just about being a human, treating humans like humans. That's all I expect from anybody else. All right, this was a pretty short video, but this wraps up how James Dobson's teachings could be embraced by an authoritarian individual like Jeffrey Epstein, or how it would line up with the abusive behaviors of Robert Maxwell and how he treated his daughter Ghislaine, and how those childhood traumas and codependencies between Ghislaine Maxwell and her dad, and later the much tighter, much more toxic bond with Jeffrey Epstein, or apparently more toxic bond with Jeffrey Epstein. Um, it really is no wonder that they turned out the way they did. Although I don't know what could have been done different. I mean, humans are going to human. Anyway, thanks for hanging out, and take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Get the rest you need. Keep track of those fluids. Until the next video.